Okay, so this is the bottom of that piece you saw me design in CAD a little bit ago. So the idea is eventually I would print a top piece and a bottom piece. This would be the bottom piece. And then the top piece would have basically a tube extending here just to allow fluid slosh from exiting out the vent in the top, right? And then it's got a zip tie hole through here, so it's just gonna clip. It's a little beyond, excuse me, a little past halfway of the tube. So it's gonna kind of clip on the tube, hold it in place. You're gonna put a zip tie through it, tighten the zip tie, and that's gonna be the mount. It's super simple, basic. Doesn't have a lot of clamping force, so it's probably not gonna hold it from like rotation, like around the tube, right, with G-force and stuff. But it'll suit its purpose. This being specifically for the transmission, fluid's gonna come in here and it's just gonna drain right back down into the trans. That's how they want you to design it. So I built this to stick a 3-inch tube in here. Now these tubes are never perfectly round. They're always close, but I was worried about the size of this thing. So the one side fits just right. The other side, I can't quite get it in there because the tubing isn't round, so I'm gonna have to address that. But for now, I'm going to put this, I'll just show you. Car's on the ground. It's good to see that ride height again. Been a minute. But I'm basically gonna take this piece, I'm gonna clip it right onto the roll bar here, like so. And then I'll put a zip tie around it, hold it. I'm gonna put the transmission vent into the bottom of that. All right, so here's the plan. We have this weekend and next weekend before opening day. And I kind of last minute decided just to spend the money. Haltech actually hooked me up a little bit on a dash, so that's cool. And I ordered all the stuff to put the Haltech in the car. I'm still thinking that it might not be the greatest decision to try to do that and try to get the car to opening day, but we're gonna give it a shot anyway. I'm going to lay the harness out, start looking at stuff. I've got the 3D printer running to print the final revisions of the intercooler plumbing mounts and the top half of that catch can I was making before. I'll go a little bit more in depth on that when I get it done. But yeah, so I'm gonna lay this harness out on the table. I actually cleaned the garage for once, and we're gonna see how intense this is, and maybe I'll change my mind halfway through it and wish I wouldn't have started it, but we're kind of committed once we start pulling the old stuff out, right? So I'm gonna lay the new stuff out, see what we can come up with, and we'll go from there. All right, guys, so this is what we got. With the way I want to wire everything, with the trans brake and the boost control, and running everything through the Haltech, I have to run both I/O expanders. If you're familiar with Haltech stuff, they have X amount of inputs and outputs out of the ECU itself, at least in the Elite 2500s. The new Nexus stuff isn't like this. It has many more inputs and outputs available. But in the 2500s, or the Elite series stuff, and even before that, their I think Platinum Sport was the last little one before the Elite, you would run these, which is just an input and output expander, right? So this thing being drive-by-wire and 4 variable cams, a lot of the I/O is taken up just in running the engine. So I have to add these in there. And the other kind of hitch that throws into everything is the pre-built harness is great. It's a pre-built harness. It's designed for pretty generic applications where the end user is putting a swap car together, that kind of thing, right? So it creates a couple problems when I get into stuff. So a lot of those things, so for example, the trans brake input and outputs, right? So you have a trans brake input, a bump button input because it's a turbo car, and then you have the trans brake output. Well, you don't want to run those through one of the I/O expanders because there will be a delay. So essentially what that means for me is the intake temp, and it's like a 400 millisecond delay, I believe is what I read. Anyway, sorry, it's random. The intake temperature, the engine coolant temp, that kind of stuff, I'm gonna move those to an I/O expander so I can run the trans brake inputs through the right into the ECU without having to go through the CAN network of the Haltech. Which is fine. Other than that, I'm using a pre-made harness, so that means I basically have to, I don't know if I'm gonna just move pins on the ECU end, because I can just remove them from here and then extend the wire a bit, whatever I gotta do to run them to here. The problem is that the 5 volt input to the sensors. The ECU has one 5-volt output that comes to a tree somewhere in this harness, and you need to have like the 5-volt harness to the sensors from the 5-volt out of the IO expander, and not like, you don't want to have the power supply to a sensor from the ECU and then the output of that sensor going to the IO expander, because the voltage differences between the ECU and the IO expander, if there is any, will skew the value you're getting. You won't have an accurate reading. So in order for me to do that, I really need to pretty much eliminate or move that input. Like for example, the IET input, I need to move that, completely remove the 5-volt wire, which means I gotta pull the harness back all the way up to wherever the 5-volt tree is. And then I have to also remove the input wire all the way through the thing to move it over to the IO expander. So anyway, I know it's complex and I'm kind of rambling through it, but it basically makes for a lot of work. So my options short term are to basically mount the ECU, mount the stuff in the car, wire it the way they want me to wire it, and I can run the trans brake input, the bump button, the boost control, all of that stuff the way I have it currently, and then move the Haltech over to controlling all that down the road, which it's looking like might be my best or maybe even only option if my intention is to try to get this thing on the dyno next weekend. I mean, I already have to make a plate to mount all this behind the, I'll show you that in a second, behind the glove box, and then remove all of the factory ECM wiring, make a mount for the IC7 for the dash, right? So there's a lot of other stuff I need to worry about. The problem that I have with doing that is I'm gonna have to come back later and redo a lot of the harness, essentially. And I mean, that's just pretty frustrating. So I don't know if I wanna I'm kinda like, I wanna do it right the first time, and I realize I put myself in a time crunch, so I'm not 100% able to do that, I don't think. Anyway, this is why I'm so up in the air with this, because there's a lot of stuff like that that has to happen. So let me show you what I'm thinking for now. Is I'm gonna make the plate to mount all this stuff, get it in the car, get these components mounted in the car, and then I mean, I don't know. I feel like in order for me to be happy with it, I just need to hack this harness apart, which kind of sucks. But it won't take me long, and honestly, I've probably spent more time thinking about it than it's actually going to take me to cut this thing apart, which is, you know, that's just nature of the beast sometimes. But so check this out. I'm going to show you in the car here where I want to put this stuff. So I want to put it, you know, a lot of guys will run the ECUs behind the glove box. It's pretty commonplace, but I've actually got quite a bit of room back here. Sorry for the flashlight deal. So I'm going to fasten a plate to the roll cage down in this corner, and then there, and then another spot on, sorry for the latch there, over here. That gives me like a 9x15 plate that I can put in there. So I think I'm gonna get that plate made a minute, get that fastened in there, lay the electronic stuff out on said plate, right? And then probably start moving stuff around in this harness. Just because I don't want to come back and do this again, right? That makes sense. Do it once, do it right the first time so you don't have to do it again. Problem is, I'm just super worried that I won't be able to make the deadline. So, I don't know. I think I'm going to try to get all of this stuff done that far, get the mounted, get the wiring harness how I want before I even pull the old stuff out of the car. That way, if I don't have this stuff ready and it doesn't work, then we can still go to the track and test the new trans. I'll have to manually shift the thing, but that's not a big deal, right? Yeah, so those are my thoughts currently. So I'm gonna get working on making this plate to go in behind the dash there. I know what you guys are all thinking. Yo, did he just put Velcro on there to mount that? Yes, I did. I've had really good luck actually with that industrial strength Velcro stuff, so I fully trust it. It's got something like, I don't know, I used to know the specs, but something like 20 pounds or 18 pounds of holding force or something like that. So that ECU that weighs, you know, 1.5 pounds would have to see a whole bunch of G-force before it comes off of there, right? But yeah, so that's the panel mounted, or well, the stuff mounted to the panel. I gotta mount it in the car yet. I got the holes in it already to mount to the roll bar tube, so that should be pretty simple. The fuse box itself, I'm gonna try to mount this away from all this stuff because that's most of that your high current kind of thing there. I don't 100% know where I'm gonna put that just yet. I think that's kind of gonna be, we're gonna have to figure that out once we get everything in there. So I'm going to pull all the electrical connections off of these and get the panel mounted in the car, and then see if I gotta modify the glove box and get the glove box modified so it can open and close again. And yeah, then we'll once we get that done, I think the next step would be to start cutting this harness apart. So that's what we're doing. All right, I got that panel in there. I'll show you that in a second, but hey, at least I didn't have to remove anything from the glove box, right? Yeah, that thing's not worth anything anymore. It's just a door. So let's check this thing out. It's kind of hard to get a good shot of it in here. That's why I wasn't recording when I was mounting this thing. But yeah, check it out. Everything fits in there. Give you an idea fairly well. The way the glove box door fastens is way down here, so the harness is actually going to come out and then go this way around the back side of the bar there to take us some extra length because it's a bit long before it goes roll before I have it where I have it planned to go through the firewall. So yeah, so that's that stuff mounted. So now it's time to start taking stuff out of the harness, which I'm completely nervous about because I just hate cutting that well done harness apart, but that's what you got to do sometimes. Alright, so my camera died during that wiring harness time last night, but the 3D printer was done overnight, so I wanted to show you guys a couple things. These are what I'm going to use to final mount the intercooler plumbing. You saw it in the CAD design a minute ago, but I just wanted to show you the actual thing. So basically it's going to mount this way to the bottom of the car, right? This has got a relief in it to go around the nut because they protrude a little bit, so it'll sit flush to whatever it's mounted against. And then show you the zip tie situation. Is just so the idea is it'll just sit the tube in it, run the zip tie through it like so, and then you know, that'll hold the hose in, right? That's the idea there. So I think those will work pretty good. And the top of the catch can's done. So I'll show you that a second. So basically you saw the baffle difference I made in the CAD program, but essentially it's just a baffle. Nothing too fancy, pretty basic. But that's the top of that. Same thing here, got a zip tie path through it to zip tie to the roll cage. I'm gonna put some silicone on these and put the catch can in. I'm gonna put the fitting in the bottom of it. I'm gonna put the catch can in the car real quick. And yeah, see what you think. Alright, got the fitting put in the bottom there. So I'm gonna stick this thing in the car this time. Okay, so this is gonna be super simple, right? Clip it on here, like I was hoping. And that's it. Cool, so I'm pretty happy with that. So now, basically now I have more harness work to do. I'm probably not gonna like time lapse that. I have to focus on not screwing that up, and running the camera in the background kind of distracts me sometimes. So, plus it's pretty boring for you guys to just watch me pull wires through a bunch of sheathing. So I'm going to get the harness done, and then yeah, I'm gonna continue recording once I get that to a better point or something pertinent comes up. and I'm just gonna keep working on getting this thing wired. So yeah, stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, and check out the previous build videos on this. And yeah, I'm gonna keep rocking.